Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is Cook Wild episode 6. Today I'm making homemade venison chili with elk that I shot with my bow earlier in the year. When my neighbor came to me and invited me to his church chili cook-off, I could not resist and happily took up the invitation. I'm excited not only to make the chili and share it with others, but hopefully meet some non-hunters and have good conversations about what hunting's all about at the event. And maybe I'll win. We'll see. First things first. No chili is complete without bacon. So I have about 3/4 of a pound of bacon here. I am just gonna slow cook, try to render some of that fat out and get a little bit of a glaze, a little bit of a brown on it to give it a little bit of extra of a smoky kind of flavor. While that's doing that, I'm gonna start chopping up onions and all the other ingredients that are gonna go inside the chili. I got that bacon rendered down. There's a little bit of oil there. I'm gonna actually pour that off to the side and save that for cornbread later. And those are some pieces I took out that looked like they were cooking too fast, so I'll just throw those back in. There's some onion here. I'm gonna go ahead and saute that really low until it's brown and translucent. And you know, why not? Whole bulb of garlic. Forget this 1 or 2 nonsense. I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna smash them. That way everyone gets a bite. Using some homemade tallow taken from when I make bone broth out of the animals I shoot. This is one of the byproducts. And despite contrary belief, this does not make the dish waxy. I mean, imagine if you put the whole jar in, it would, but it works great as a cooking oil, has a very high heat, and it's probably the healthiest oil. There's the bacon, there's the grease. These are almost done. They're getting kind of golden brown. I'm gonna go ahead and get that wok fired up and start cooking the meat now. Oh, one last thing. If you see any thin pieces of onion in your saute, just pull those out because those can get thin and kind of chewy. Got the wok pulled. By the way, woks are amazing. If you don't have one, get one. They're not that expensive. This is probably 50 bucks. By the way, for those that are wondering, that's 2 pounds of meat. I don't know any other cooking vessel that can take 2 pounds of meat and put proper seal on it. Just the air. Just take all the meat out. Okay, ready to transfer the meat over to the Dutch oven. And then I'll go ahead and get the liquids and the rest of the spices in. Almost forgot, yeah, I picked these in the garden yesterday and cooked them down. Just kidding, they're canned beans. Nothing wrong with canned beans. My opinion, just make sure you rinse them thoroughly until they stop making bubbles, because there's a lot of self-produced chemicals that come with that, lectins. They're not good for you, and I don't think they taste very good either. Then I'm gonna throw a can of diced tomatoes in there as well. And then we'll get on to the bone. By the way, those are black beans. Most recipes call for pinto or kidney, but I think black beans really do the trick with the venison because they have a little bit richer flavor. And it called for 1 quart of bone broth. This is a pint, so 1 more of those. And actually these are concentrated bone broth, so technically 1 is fine, but I'm gonna do 2. It just gives it a much richer, like savory umami flavor. Also, almost forgot, a little bit of ketchup, little sugar, tomato sugar for you. Secret sauce. Powder anyway. This is Korean pepper powder, taekyun. I apologize on the pronunciation. I probably botched it. 2 tablespoons of that. You can substitute that for paprika, which is what I'm doing. And at the end, if I want to have a little bit more of a balanced flavor, if the paprika helps, I might add a little tablespoons of cumin, tablespoon of coriander. This is a little Hank Shaw special. That's an espresso maker. This is a 1/3 cup of espresso. He calls for a cup of wheat coffee, but 1/3 of a cup of espresso, I think that's equivalent. That's what I have. Credit where credit's due. Hank Shaw inspired some of this recipe, including the next ingredient. The original recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of molasses. I don't like measuring molasses because it just gets stuck in the measuring device, so I just eyeball it. Comes out pretty slow. I'd say that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, bringing this back up to heat slowly. I don't want to burn what's on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and mix this in. I haven't added any salt yet. Some recipes call for, you know, whatever amount of salt. I find they're usually too salty, and that your bacon already has salt. So depending on how salty your bacon is, that should determine how much salt you use. So once this has simmered for a few hours, I'm going to come back, give it a taste, and see how much salt I think I need, and then just kind of add a little bit until it's right where I want it. Yeah, I gave it a little taste after I cooked it for a few hours yesterday, let it sit overnight to let the flavors congeal. It needs a little salt. That's about a teaspoon. I'm gonna do 3 of those, which makes about a tablespoon. And then we'll try it again and see where it is. Okay, that's about perfect, I think. I'm just gonna let it sit like that for another couple hours while it simmers. then turn the heat off and take that in and see how we do in this contest. All right, the cornbread's gonna be the next step. This is one of my favorite recipes. I'm gonna be using a Dutch oven, the smaller one over there, and we're gonna get that sucker nice and hot. We're gonna put the reserved bacon grease from the bacon I cooked for the chili into the bottom of this, give it a light, nice glaze. It's gonna be thick. And then we're gonna use polenta for the corn. I like to do this instead of the cornmeal mixes because those have a bunch of like B vitamins and additives. I feel like I can taste it. This is just straight up ground corn. I usually blend it to make it a little more fine. I throw it in the blender on high for a little bit. We're gonna go 50-50, baking flour, polenta, doing gluten-free because that's what my wife likes, even though I don't think she's gonna get any of this. It's probably gonna get all eaten, but we'll see. And you could, some recipes will call for a higher percentage of corn, but I like it to stick together a little better. That's why I'm going 1-to-1. There's our 2 cups of our different flours. You may be wondering why I got sour cream here. A lot of recipes call for buttermilk or milk. I don't do so well with milk. I like it fermented. I digest it better. So the easy way to make buttermilk, since most of that stuff has a bunch of crap in it anyway, these days it's not real buttermilk. Just get about 50-50. We're gonna go 1.5 cups total. So I'm going 50% water in there and 50% sour cream, and I'm gonna mix it up with a whisk. Got our homemade buttermilk. Pour that in there. I'm gonna use ghee, about 1/4 cup. I'm not even measuring, just close to it. Why ghee? Well, like the whole dairy thing, I digest it better. Plus, it's already soft. I don't need to heat it up to soft. Before I put the eggs in, I'm gonna blend that really high speed, get all that, but get everything emulsified. Then I'll put the eggs in because I don't wanna have to overbeat it and make it too whippy. Tablespoon of sugar, and make it 2. About a teaspoon of salt. Excuse me, baking powder. Yes, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And about a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. 2 eggs. And I gotta say, a real farm-raised egg does not get any better than that. They taste so good when they're dark orange like that. It's worth the extra. And that was about 30 seconds. Time to get it on the, you got the bacon grease going in there. We're gonna let that get piping hot right up to smoke point. Then we're gonna pour all that batter in, and we're gonna get that, basically we're gonna sear the bottom of that before we put it into the oven. That'll keep it from sticking. You'll never have to grease a pan again if you cook your cornbread like this. And it comes out tasting amazing. And then using that bacon grease, just, you know, who doesn't love an extra bacon flavor in their cornbread? We're at smoke point. Make sure that flame stays ripping because it's gonna take a lot of heat when we put this in. Okay, I'm starting to smell a crust. You can kind of see it in there. Starting to build up a crust. We don't want to overdo it. Turn the heat off, throw it in the oven at 450 for 20 minutes without the lid. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, that looks good. That's what we want. Look at that crust. Oh yeah. All right, we're all set up here. Got the chili simmering. Ready to do this. Should be a good turnout. Well, it doesn't look like they liked it very much. The blue chips mean most unique. I think we're doing pretty good there. We've got a lot of people tonight. And they all know it's from Wild Elk with bone broth from the elk too. Well, I should have had my son video me getting called up to get the award. Winner win that chicken dinner. We win most unique and by a landslide, and it was really fun. So we'll definitely be doing that next year. That recipe can be made with beef too. You can do it with any kind of meat. Just make sure you use the other ingredients like I did, and I think you'll really like it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. And if you have any questions, please put comments below. Thank you. Have a good night.